Welcome to the B-Sides and Beers podcast.
Welcome to B-Sides and Beers, episode 48. Tonight we dig into the kick-assery of the great Henry Lawrence Garfield, a.k.a. Henry Rollins. What is going on?
Not much, man.
Lots and not much. Kicking back with you guys.
Yeah, it's been a long 2 weeks.
It has. I look forward to these nights.
Did you say it was a long 2 weeks?
Yes, indeed. It was a long 2 weeks. Has it
Yeah,
been
well,
2 weeks?
yeah, like it has been 2 weeks. It just felt short. Like it feels like and not that that's a bad thing, but it just went quick. That's all.
Yeah, no, my days drag, dude.
Yeah.
Your days drag.
They just drag.
Yeah. There's a certain point in the day too, hey? It's like kind of around like 4 o'clock when it's just like, all right. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, really? That's when I am racing to get stuff done.
yeah, no, dragon.
For me, that's like 1 o'clock, and like lunch is kicking me in the.
Yeah, you need the Red
Gut.
Bull 5-hour
I'm
energy power coma
I'm
nap.
ready. I need all of that.
Speed.
But then at 4 o'clock is like, oh man, I got like an hour and a half to get it all done.
Go.
I should have worked harder.
Yeah, that's a realization.
Shouldn't have taken that water break.
Should have taken that water break.
Hey, man, you get 15-minute breaks, right? That's what the labor law says. So, you can...
So
Yeah,
take them.
You got to take those, man, or they'll take them away. You know what I mean? In
Yeah,
your
dude.
house, they're going to take them away. On that note, you need to rate, you need to review this, you need to share it, you need to do all that stuff, please and thank you. And what are we drinking tonight?
Who gets to start tonight?
You know what? I'll jump in because I got two selections.
You do it.
You
do
start.
it.
I'm going to Bowen Island. I'm going to Bowen Island Brewing out of Vancouver, and I'm drinking the Wave Crasher Irish Cream Ale.
Oh,
Yeah,
delicious.
and it is good so far. I've tried it, but these things on the side, I don't know. I think of like Elaine in Seinfeld writing for a J. Peterman catalog when I read like these things because it just has that vibe to it. And I'll just read it to you just because. And you know what? I'm sorry because it doesn't really say anything about the beer, but here it is. Off the island's coastal jagged edge, waves crash against the rocky shore, producing a rich foam spray. The sea kayaker challenges the rolling surf, determined to master the ocean currents. Wave crashers find their way. Irish Cream Ale, Bowen Island Brewing. It's tasty. And I'm going to follow that up with another Bowen Island Brewing, and I'm going to drink the Reef Break Hemp Blonde.
Hemp
Yeah.
blonde.
And it's also got a cool can of underwater fish and some type of coral-looking thing. I don't know if I'm going to read this one, but it's very similar in that same kind of vein of, Himalayan walking shoes, kind of urban sombrero vibe. You know what I mean?
Have you tried a lot?
I've got an
Do you?
sombrero.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, great. We need to paint this picture. Oh, it's in the room. It's right there. Look at that. Hey, man.
Yeah.
I don't think I can put my headphones on now.
To do them upside down. There you go.
No.
There we go.
I don't have that.
Well, I gotta take a
This is my working in the fields hat. Yeah, when it's
Yeah,
super hot outside,
exactly.
definitely. There we go.
That's fucking awesome.
Oh yeah, I'll wear it like walking to Starbucks. Don't give it.
Nice. That's good. I haven't worn this thing out of my house. I just wear it in my backyard, but
really?
maybe I just need to do that. Yeah. Anyways, that's what I got, boys. Those are my two selections for tonight. So
Wicked.
There you go.
Oh, you sold it, man.
Thank
That
you very
sounds
much.
good. Mike T, what you got?
Okay, I have found a new offering from Parallel 49. And some great new artwork from Steve Kitchen. And this is a brown ale called Oak Boy. Let's see that.
Yeah. I've had that one. It's good.
A pint with a monocle and a fancy mustache, and everything is
That's all you need in life, man.
oak and mahogany in the background. So I've got that, and I've got another offering from Innocent Gun. It is a Mangoes on the Run mango IPA.
Mangoes on the run.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, it's not in its own fancy little box and super expensive, but
Oh, hey, like that one's cheaper?
yeah, I guess so. I think it was like
Yeah.
$3 or something.
Yeah, you know what? I haven't seen the Innocent Gun like bottle in a box actually in a long time. I've only seen the cans.
Not forever.
Like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I
Yeah.
got switched over companies or something. Anyways, yep.
Yeah, they got it up by the cigar walk-in humidors and the fancy places.
Do you have any cigars at your house?
I have no cigars at my house.
Are you a cigar smoker?
Once upon a time, I was.
Oh man, I was addicted to swishers for a while.
Yeah.
You boys saw some of that.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
man, the claws sunken deep. I can't. I don't know how I did it.
Well, the thing with me is I bought the most expensive ones that I could find, so I knew I could only have one every once in a while as a treat instead of, I'll just buy a
fix.
fix. I'll have it every day. No, it's like a once a month treat. So
Oh yeah.
I'll probably get into it again in a couple of years here when the kids get a little older. But
Tobacco's such a romantic idea. If I could, I would like get a pouch and just roll
yeah,
some drum. Nice.
There's this
drum.
old cat that lives like a few blocks over, and I'll drive by, and he'll just be like outside, sitting on his like chair, smoking his pipe, and just rocking like it's like the stereotypical like image, but he's just.
Is he whittling a piece
I
of wood?
I haven't caught him do that yet, but I'm sure he does that. I'm sure he does. But I just see him every once in a while, like just stuffing it full, right? And I'm just like, it's something about that. It's just,
I've always wanted a big Gandalf pipe. Man.
Yeah, right? Like the one you got to hold out full arm's length away.
Yep. It's like a foot and a half away.
I would break that in a
The
second.
Wesley pipes.
Wesley pipes. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, Dane. Sorry, Mike, you're good? Yeah.
I think I'm good. Yeah. Well, I've got one last one that's
we'll hit that.
that's I brought back from a previous episode that I
for that
thought
one
was
too, yeah.
awesome. So I thought I'd try it again. It's from Granville Island Brewing. It is a Cheeky Monkey. That's the chocolate and vanilla Hefeweizen.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
I've seen that one in the store. It's good? Yeah.
yeah, this is the third time I've got them, and it's it's awesome.
A chocolate Hefeweizen. So it's like usually those are kind of like banana sweet.
It's really desserty. Yeah, it's
desserty.
desserty. You have it as a single treat. Yeah, like aroma, banana split,
You're not drinking
toasted
6 of
bread,
those.
and lemon clove loaf. So
Lemon clove loaf.
flavor, lemon, custard, chocolate, and banana. Yeah, so
Sounds good.
that's all I got.
So I decided to go with cider tonight.
I almost did too, but I thought we might
Dude.
save it or something. I don't know.
I was all about during Christmas. I went to Edmonton and I just was hitting up the cider.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for some reason, don't know why. Maybe it's just nice to change, but so I've got a Lone Tree Old Growth Orchard dry cider.
Cool.
And it's pretty good. It says Okanagan apples, but these guys are out of Vancouver. And it's just your run-of-the-mill cider, I guess.
Is that in a can?
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, I don't know. I go through these bouts of cider. I was really into this stuff called Savannah that they drink a lot in the southern parts of Africa, I guess. But yeah, I really
Is
liked
that
it.
apples?
Drank a lot of it.
Yep.
Yeah, it was apple cider. This is apple cider as well. They have a whole bunch of like other offerings. There was like pear, what else, and like a ginger beer cider.
It feels like that's taken off too,
Yeah.
man, in the last little bit, you know, and lots of like local
Yeah.
cideries. Like even in our town, I mean, there's 2 cideries alone, and one of them has that big orchard on the corner. So,
Yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
it's big, and even at the end of the aisle of all the craft beer, they have a huge section of just like craft cideries too, right? Like
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
the
don't
region
know.
for it, man.
I've heard it's because there's like an abundance of apples,
Crazy. Yeah.
which makes it easy to, I guess, brew or whatever you do to make cider. But also, it's you know, for those gluten-free peeps, for those celiacs, just grab a cider, you're good to
Yeah,
go.
totally. And you know, you said abundance of apples. It's funny in that orchard, that one on the corner. It's massive. I don't know how many acres, but we
Yeah.
drive by. There's like apples just left on the tree, man. Like they just nobody picked
Yeah,
them, and then nobody sold them. And I'm like, wow, somebody should come and grab these. Like somebody could probably use them, right? So maybe, yeah,
You know what's crazy? Yeah, so we have a big cherry tree in the back, and like I've got a 9-foot ladder, so I can get half of those cherries if I spend a good couple afternoons with a rake.
It's a
Yeah.
big job.
It is,
Yeah.
and like for the most part, half of the cherries on the tree fall to the ground. It smells like wine for a couple of weeks, and they go to waste. But I always thought, like, wouldn't it be cool if like there was a company that came out and they just like harvested your fruit for you, and like you got options. Like, I want some cherry
Yeah.
pie, and then like a couple days later, they drop off pies made from the cherries off
yeah.
your
It's
tree.
like dropping the deer off at the butcher to process it, and just be like, "What do you want? I want
Exactly,
nothing but
right?
steaks and jerky. That's nothing, you know."
Yes,
you-
it's a jerk.
You can get anything you're willing
yeah,
to pay for, man.
yeah, exactly.
Cause I think a lot of fruit gets wasted just because like, shoot, unless you got like an orchard ladder and a special
And a
whatever,
crew,
hook
and a
tool,
full on
whatever they
crew,
use,
right?
and a
Crew.
full on crew. Like that's why we just threw in our urban sombreros there. I mean, you
Absolutely,
Oh, yeah.
need that.
absolutely, yes.
Anyway, yeah.
Henry Garfield.
Yeah. Henry Garfield.
Indeed. So this was brought up by Dane, I think.
It was.
Yes.
You know, I don't know why. I just threw it out there. I thought it'd be interesting. He seems to be an interesting cat. I know bits and pieces about all of the sort of variety of things that he has done. I was into Black Flag a little bit in my early 20s, and
Yep.
I've seen him in movies, and I know he does spoken word, but I haven't really listened to a lot of it. So
Right.
I think this was a good opportunity to sort of explore that. And I think he was involved in something that was very influential at that time, that 30 years later, 40 years later, we're still
Yeah.
talking about, you know,
Yep.
which
He's
is
had his
hardcore
hand
punk,
in-
post-hardcore punk.
Totally, man. You look at you look at Black Flag's first album, Damage. I mean, it's arguably the first hardcore punk album for coming out of Washington, slash Los Angeles, I guess. But yeah,
A lot of people would
it's
argue
so
Bad Brains.
early on, man. Yeah, but, well, I mean, Bad Brains. That there was like a lump of a group of like 4 or 5 that were there, but I mean, they were definitely one of them. So
Yeah.
and it's really cool, years later, looking back at how much they influenced, the late 80s, early 90s grunge bands, and like it's so there's so much influence with the Melvins, and you can see up to Nirvana and and bands like that, that it so much of it is very similar to that sound.
Yeah. And I would say even again in like the early 2000s, I think hardcore had like a resurgence there with Comeback Kid,
Yep.
bands like Ignite, like very sort of passionate and politically fueled punk rock. That was, as a young man in university, that was exactly what I needed. So I thought it would be an interesting thing to kind of peel back the layers. And what I'm interested to hear what you guys came across.
Yeah, totally. There's lots. I found too. It was kind of similar to a Mike Patton for me. Like it just kind of, I kept going down streets and avenues again, right, just to find out some stuff. But I was really surprised. Well, with I guess like the longevity and like the length of his career, really, that continues on too, right? Like he's been active and been relevant for a lot of years, and continues to have his own radio show and continues to still do spoken word, and still continues to be heavily involved, and it's cool. And he's still a young dude, right? Like he's still, I think he's only 60, right? So I mean, considering that he's done a ton of stuff, you would think that somebody like that would be older, but he's had a long career, and he's obviously been smart about it, right? He's made the right choices and stayed relevant and aligned himself with the right people, because I don't think you stay relevant for that long without doing that and without staying clean and out of trouble, right?
Well, that's the thing too. I mean, he's always been, straight edge, clean.
Yeah.
For the most part. I mean, he's tried, alcohol a couple times and weed a couple times, but that was it. And it made him feel like shit, and he wanted nothing to do with it. And, it was just focus on, doing your push-ups and rocking out.
And I can't imagine that guy like drunk. He would probably be like the most belligerent, angry, like violent drunk ever, and would be,
or it would be a complete reverse where he's just this cuddly bear.
maybe he might be
just crying all the time.
He just wants to hug everybody. And
yeah,
all the anger's on stage, and as soon as he gets drunk, he switches completely.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, his catalog is vast, and I mean, I think I first started following him maybe 1994.
That's when I did too, man. Liar.
Yeah, I think it was so off of the album Wait for Liar, that and the Crow soundtrack.
Okay.
Yeah.
Those are the two things for me too, man. That's kind of how I stumbled into it. And yeah, it's maybe, and that was really late, right? Like that was already way late to the party, to the Henry Rollins party by that point. But I found out too that Ghost Rider song is a cover. I didn't know that. And there's another one on the Crow soundtrack that's a cover, but it's by a band called Suicide back in 1977, and it's actually a really cool original. You guys should check it out. There's no drums in it at all, but it was just two dudes back in New York City, and not very popular at all. But they were they were one of the first bands to use the word punk music back in the 70s when they put out a concert poster out. They put punk music on there, and that was like one of the first times.
Interesting.
Yeah. Right. Well, one of the first times in U.S. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so and just two dudes. And I like a duet too, which is kind of rare, I think, at that time too. But anyways, 1977 for that song, but a totally different vibe.
So no percussion?
Yeah, it's just like, you'll have to hear it, but like it's really different from the Henry Rollins like solo version, and way different than the Rollins band version too. Yeah.
Right.
But did you guys listen to his first solo record? That Hot Animal Machine?
Lifetime?
I'm sorry?
Lifetime?
Hot Animal Machine. That's his first solo record. it was. That's what Ghost Rider is on. It's on that album. But like lots of spoken word, lots of. I found it very like Jim Morrison, Iggy Pop ish. Like, yeah, like it's got a lot of that.
In what way? How do you
super
mean?
poetic, and
Just the delivery of it too. It's very. It sounds really kind of
well, it's aggressive, and it's very. He's an amazing storyteller. Like when he tells stories, and that's another reason why his stand up, his live spoken word stories tour that he keeps doing, it just sucks. It sucks you in, man. Like he knows how to tell a story, and when you look back into all of his spoken word, even back to Family Man, 1984, Black Flag's third album there, where the first half of it is all spoken word and the second half is all instrumental, and you dig into what he's doing with his spoken word, and it transfers all the way up till now. Like it's so like it holds strong, and I can definitely see a parallel between Iggy Pop and Jim Morrison in that respect.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, you'll have to listen to it again with that in mind. Yeah, but it's got a lot of that in there.
I caught a lot of the recent spoken word stuff, which I thought it's interesting because I was sort of looking for maybe a way to frame him out, like he's this or he's that, and I still can't do it. I still can't really form an opinion about him.
Yeah.
Like you said, he's a great storyteller. He's one of those dudes where you sit down and like you'll get one or two words in and he'll just do like, all the talking. He's definitely a storyteller, and he seems very optimistic, at least in like the later sort of like 2010 plus. But then you kind of look at the interviews when he was with Black Flag and even all the way up to like Rollins Band.
Yep.
And he's a nasty guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it almost sort of contradicts a little bit where the later stuff is like he wants to acknowledge how music can sort of galvanize the world, and I think he's right. I think it's wrong to sort of try and pigeonhole somebody at a certain point in their life. And he's definitely grown and taken those steps to travel, and he was telling stories about going to Iran and just like going to random people's houses, and he had a terabyte hard drive full of punk music, and he'd be like, download this shit and spread it.
Yeah.
And if they couldn't do it, if it was like really unsafe for people to do that, they would find a way to do it, and
Right.
whatever, 14 months later they would have that. But he was all about planting seeds of music, which I thought was really interesting. But you can sort of see this sort of progression, or like how he was a very like do-it-yourself DIY and very protective of what he had when he was younger, sort of trying to navigate the Washington, D.C. punk scene, and it seemed really brutal. And then, every story that he tells, looking back on that, he's like, I just took advantage of every opportunity that came my way, and I did it. I did acting, I did voiceovers, I did this and that and that. And I think he's a real Renaissance man.
Definitely.
And it's very rare to see someone like that, an authentic person who is good at a lot of things, but is also very humble. And, I think that's where his spoken word and stories are so interesting to listen to, because it's, it's relatable, but at the same time, it's like, oh, that sounds awesome. It sounds like an awesome journey,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's really cool going back to the old interviews. Like you said, he's very aggressive, or it seems like he's always been such an intelligent person. Maybe not overly educated.
Yeah.
School, quote unquote educated, like, but he's put in the time for, he's passionate for word. So, he's put in the time for literature and knowledge, and
He
when you look
considers
at,
his words when he
Yeah.
speaks. Yeah,
100%, man.
Yeah,
And then when he gets interviewed by these people, he sees them as lesser kind of thing. So it's like you're wasting my time unless you come up with something that's really cool or something that I haven't, a question I haven't heard before. It's like I have no time.
It's
for
the
you.
Mike Patton.
And
It's the Mike
then
Patton
it-
thing, right? Like
Yeah,
eat a sandwich,
totally.
right? While you're doing the
Yeah.
interview, but that's the thing too, is that I'm not sure if that was an act. Like I don't know if that whole macho
this hard
tough
stuff.
guy thing
I
was
don't
an
think it
act.
was.
But then I don't know if you guys read that too, but like when he took over in Black Flag, like he was playing these shows and fans were coming on stage. They were stabbing him in the neck with pens. They were punching him in the face. Like
Yeah.
they just brutal, right? Like, and
You're going into war.
yeah, and he's taking these guys on and like beating the hell out of them with a microphone and like, so maybe, that's coming from a background like that, like,
Battle
rough. So maybe it was real, maybe it wasn't, but you're right. Like his whole persona has changed, and obviously he's a different guy now. He's a different age. He's in a different experience, but I think of that too. Even when we were talking about like Phil Anselmo, like he kind of had that whole right. It's all kind of has that lineage, right, of that, and I guess that's some of that macho-ness is like. Sometimes it's tough to listen to, and it's just like, all right, like I don't know if I can take it seriously or if like it's not, right? Like it's just it's weird, but it's original. So
Yeah.
I think so, and it does come across as a hard exterior, but like I think when you experience like someone like that, and they're putting forth this sort of like picture of who they are, and it's something that, again, like I'm gonna revert back to like framing it out. Like I think that's what he did a lot. Like I saw a couple of interviews when he was with Black Flag still, and he's kind of an asshole.
Yeah.
But then he also talks about how he called up Ozzy's wife Sharon,
Yeah.
and he was like, okay, so the band's coming back together. I want to see the practices. And Sharon's like, okay, sure. They're in Wales. And so he booked a flight and he went to Wales. And he was with like these gods. Like he worships Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
And he was hanging out with Ozzy and seeing where they play. And then eventually he went to the show and cried. It was like a 2-evening show, and like the second evening he cried.
Yeah.
And so I think he's just a very passionate guy, and he puts forward this sort of hard exterior. And I think over the years he doesn't need to do that as much anymore because, now he's kind of punk rock royalty and whatnot. But I think, again, the whole DIY, and this is what, to me, really, like, I've always been interested in Henry Rollins. Not necessarily a fan, but really interested in the whole tenacity behind starting and doing your own thing, and just like jumping into it, and regardless of how you think it's going to turn out, you're doing it because you feel like you need to do it.
Yeah.
So whether that's going in, auditioning for Black Flag, or starting a publishing company, or diving into other things like movie roles and voiceovers, I think I really do admire his tenacity and fearlessness. I think that's something that I've always kind of like respected about this dude.
Yeah. Just very, very driven.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you look back to it at the start, as far back as I could find anyway, when, you dig into the stuff that you did with SOA in the 80s in 1980, I guess. And then going from being a fan of Black Flag and going to see one of their shows. And at these shows, there was quite often an opportunity to have, get called up on stage to do some song or, to sing kind of thing. And he got called up one night and he sang a couple of their songs. For the most part, what he could remember. I mean, he didn't get all the words, but he did his thing. And then Black Flag ended up packing up and leaving for, to continue along the tour. And I guess they contacted him not too much longer later, saying, we need a singer. You wanna join up, or you wanna come out for a tryout? And basically he already tried out.
Yeah.
In that first little thing. So it was just a matter of, running through the songs again and then waiting for them to decide, and then it was just go right from there. So, and it going from just being some dude that, was in SOA and working at or managing a Baskin Robbins to dropping everything to hit the road, to front Black Flag, to writing the songs and doing the records and pushing that. It's unreal, man. It's just like,
it's a rock and roll fantasy. Yeah. It's that's like right
Totally.
there.
Yeah, it really is.
Right.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that, like the Mark Wahlberg, the Marky Mark Rockstar movie, right? Like where he gets like, gets to be the lead singer of his like idolized band. It's like, that's kind of what it's like.
Yeah.
What movie is this?
Oh, Rockstar,
Rockstar.
Marky Mark, Jennifer Aniston.
Really?
Yeah, it's terrible. I mean, it's,
Zach Wilde.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Steel Panther is the fictitious band, and he joins the band, and it's cliche, but it's fun.
Isn't he in a movie where he joins the football team too? Like,
Probably.
Oh, probably.
We need a kicker. And Mark Wahlberg's like,
A kicker.
I work construction, but I got a good left.
Yeah. What are we talking about now? Now I'm off the tangent. I'm talking Marky Mark now.
The Rockstar Dream.
Oh yeah, Rockstar
it
Dream.
took
Yeah,
him
like
around-
that's it.
Took him around the world.
Yeah. From that. Do you guys know why none of this stuff is on Spotify?
I don't know why the Rollins band stuff isn't. I know I found maybe 5 songs.
Yeah,
on
like
there,
there's only one album.
and otherwise, and I've had what is it, the End of Silence and Wait, and what was the other one? Come In and Burn was the other one that I've had for years on CD, and then going back to try and find it on digital, it's next to impossible other than finding it on YouTube.
Yeah, but you guys,
No, he's probably keeping things, the obvious. I think he's probably keeping things within his own. Is he under a record label or?
I don't know, but
it probably
usually
boils
when that
down to a
happens, it's a
royalty
record
thing.
label.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just find it weird because that's one of the first
legal-
artists that we've dived into on this podcast that their stuff wasn't on there.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
Yep.
He's on YouTube.
oh yeah, like I found all the albums on
yeah.
YouTube, and that was good to go back even to those
Yeah.
Black Flag albums. But even Mike, you were talking about that Family Man album, and even that the first track on there is hilarious, right? It's just like there's so many things that I like can just go on with, right? Like the guy's talking about like, oh, you're such a family man, like put up your Christmas lights. Those Christmas lights look so good. Like, oh, family man, taking out your garbage early. Like, look at you, you're such a good guy. Like, and it's just the whole like for like 3
on the other
minutes.
side, he's beating his family and being
Just ripping on the family man in this whole opening skit. But
It's funny. I mean, like he is. It seems as though he's like authentically against that. That's just not programmed.
Definitely.
He's not programmed to do that shit.
Yeah.
He's a different cat. I mean, he's not one. I mean, I think, going back to the Spotify comment, I think he's just, if there's anything that disinterests him, he's out.
Yeah.
Like
If he's
he
bored,
doesn't
he's
give a-
gone.
Yeah, he doesn't give a fuck. Yeah.
and you got to kind of respect that.
Once
right?
again, he
Like,
follows his passions. He follows his passions and go doing the spoken word all the way from the 80s till now.
Yeah.
and it's it's what he does, and,
you
and it's at the point now where he's been asked many times about new music, and he's like, I'm just done with it. I'm done with the music side of things. I do these other things now.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's tough when you're in your 60s.
He said,
And if you're, and
sorry, Dave. He said I don't know if you guys saw that too. He said he hasn't had a relationship since his 20s. Like he's just like a solitary man.
he's a lone wolf.
He said he has very few friends outside of like professional contacts.
Yeah.
People bore him. He has no patience for your if you're stupid, I'm bored. If you're lazy, I'm bored. If you drink, I'm out. If you do drugs, I'm out. If you're
not
kind of
fit.
thing, right? Yeah, if you're
Not
fit,
lifted.
yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. He's so focused in his own truths.
I mean,
that he doesn't have time for other people.
you're right, and that's cool. And Dane, you're right too about being a Renaissance man. Because really, who else is like this? Who else have we even looked at, even on this show too, where is like a quote unquote rock star or punk god who has not had a romantic relationship since his 20s, does absolutely no drugs. Yeah. This is not normal.
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah.
I mean, as far as we know it, I mean, who knows? I think he's just like brazenly truthful about it, right? Like, and it's interesting because he's gone through the 80s and 90s when it was cool to be like that, right? And to be honest, I didn't even know he was straight edge.
Me either.
I didn't even really know him to be straight edge.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't surprise me, but
I don't think he preaches it, but it's not what he does.
no, he doesn't preach it. But I think it's, when you are that focused, and there are, like, I think more and more these days, there are people who opt to not have families and who are more driven as far as their careers. And I think his career is just not defined, but like something which is very important to him. Like in like a bunch of interviews, he says like he knows where he came from and he doesn't ever want to go back. So I think there's stuff that maybe he doesn't embellish on, but I think he really does understand. He talks about like the middle class fading away, and I think that's really part of his punk rock ethos. But I think it's driven by fear. It's
There's
weird,
deep-seated
like,
scars. You can tell there's something.
that is like keeping him. He is just running and not running away, but running towards something that or running towards a bunch of things that are going to keep him from being the person that he was supposed to be. I don't know, and that's where I feel this dude is like very complex. At face value, he's a punk rock guy. He's done some cool stuff, and like I said before, it's hard to frame him because he's a direct person in all of his interviews. But I think there's so much depth to him that there's a lot beneath the surface as well that keeps him motivated.
Totally. Totally. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And Mike, I wanted to go back to what you said earlier too, and I had a question too for both of you. But okay, the Crow soundtrack, that we all know what happened with that, and that's huge, and that's what caught our attention. But how did Liar catch my attention in 1994? Where did I hear this? Where
Beavis and Butthead.
was that? Was that it?
I
That
think
was
it was
for
much
me. That
music
was for
loud
me anyway. Yeah, probably loud.
Yeah, like
definitely
well,
loud.
I just
but probably
why
Beavis
that
and
song?
Butthead.
Like
Those
what?
are the two earliest
how come
memories.
that song broke through out of all the rest of that Rollins band stuff? Why that song? Like I just don't know why it caught my attention because I was
video?
like, oh, cool. Like this, let's listen to this new band called the Rollins Band, and then it's not new at all. Like this has been going on forever. So I don't know how that happened, but
The video was very, what's the word, polarizing, I
Yeah.
guess. I mean, anytime that I saw
He's
it,
literally running back and forth. It's like
Yeah.
Liarland and then Truth or something.
yeah,
like that.
and switching back from, wearing different hats to I'm this, I'm that,
Yeah.
and then
I like the cop. Like he's doing
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
the cop faces.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just funny how that one
It
popped
just-
out at all of them, right? Because I remember that distinctly. Like, I remember singing that
Yeah.
in like 1994 too, right?
But you know what, Mike?
Yep.
I remember us making fun of
Yeah.
that.
Oh yeah.
Back in
For
the
sure.
day. But now I'm like, it's okay. It's all right. I mean, the message is clear. It's
Yeah.
like he's passionate about it and he's telling the truth. Yeah, fuck. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
All the shit like that we thought was, to our benefit. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's just weird
Yeah.
how that was just one moment in time there with that song that caught my attention.
that.
Yep.
Did you check out any of that live? Any Rollins band live?
I did.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Some of it was good.
The karate-
Some of it was good.
the karate
yeah,
stance.
like entertaining. I would have liked to seen that live.
Right.
know?
Yeah, I think it would have been.
I would have liked to see it in
different
person
live.
and see him do all that stuff. But yeah, and some of it that I watched was great, and some of it was not so great. But we can probably say that about every band on this planet. So
Day to day on a 300
yeah,
date tour.
yeah, exactly. These guys
not
tour
always gonna be
relentlessly
good.
too, right? And you're absolutely right. That could have been on
Yeah.
one of those day 765 that they're on, right? Playing Columbus, Ohio, on a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Springton.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Laser got me in the eye.
This is enough of your splish splash show.
yeah.
We're done with your splish splash show.
Oh, Spinal Tap.
That's funny. I just watched a Lamb of God. I forget what tour it was, but it was the last show of the tour, and they're done. They're so done.
Oh yeah.
It's funny.
yeah. It feels like no camera should be allowed
it's
in
amazing
shows
that
like
they can
that.
make
Like,
it
don't
through.
film this. You know,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
don't. The first show and the last show,
Our
don't film
energy is
these,
not the same.
ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it was an interesting pick
Right.
because it's a band and a guy and a name that I've heard for a long time and been around for a long time and didn't really know much about it and him. So that dive was good.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun digging this last couple weeks. So, and just getting back into these albums that I had not, put time into for a couple of years, or some of them almost 10 now since I was obsessed with it. So, yeah, it was a solid 2 weeks of just digging into everything I could find. So yeah, solid.
What came like? What do you think is the best? What's the stuff that you think is the best?
It's funny with him because it seems, going back from even listening to the State of Alert stuff to now, or to when he stopped doing the music side of things, it was very much along the same path. Like, he didn't deviate. When you listen to, he had the same sort of lyrical structure. He had the same passion. He had the same energy.
Right.
He had this,
Right.
like, it's been Henry Rollins the entire time. It's not like he did something a little different. It doesn't matter what musicians he was with. It sounds like him, and it sounds like, when you get into a lot of the Henry Rollins or the Rollins band stuff, it's very comparable to Damaged. I mean, not musically, but his part in that.
Right,
And I found too, digging back into the Black Flag stuff, where you look at Damaged and you look at My War, and they're very different albums. Where, excuse me, you look at Damaged and it's straight hardcore punk, and then you look at My War and it's hardcore punk Rollins with these jam band thing, like this jam band. What he did was great. A lot of the parts in that album were great, but they seemed like they were too long. Like they just didn't need to be that long. Like they were trying to be I don't know. It's like a prog band almost, but not technically.
Right.
Yeah, you look at the length
You know,
of some of
they
those
didn't have
albums,
the
they're like
technical
70,
prowess to do it.
72 minutes, like 80 minutes, right?
It
Like,
doesn't
yeah,
need to
yeah,
be.
for sure.
And that's where I found it transfers well into influencing grunge bands later on, where I started thinking of a lot of bands in 89, 90, 91, the very first of the very first front runners of grunge, quote unquote, and they were so influenced by the guitar style where it's just really messy solos
Greg
and they're
Ginn
trying
stuff.
stuff, and it's they're
I think
trying
he's
things,
phenomenal.
but oh yeah.
Yeah, I really do think, like, maybe just taking a look at him, he had a big part in this big change in what punk rock was,
Yep.
and what people thought was punk rock.
Yep.
And sort of off-tone solos and melodies that he was doing.
Definitely
Awesome.
groundbreaking.
Yeah.
Definitely groundbreaking.
Some of it's hard to listen to, and other, instances are just amazing. Not even I was listening to Slip It In today, and I'm like, I think that's like a perfect example. It was like so good and so different. And I think, of course, like Henry Rollins is very distinct, and I don't even know if it's like his music ability. I don't know if he has
he's
much
not a
music
singer.
ability, but
He's
it
just
is like
he's a
presence
passionate
and
yeah. It's just
But-
a pras. He's a passionate lyricist,
Yeah.
poet.
Yeah.
and he pushes it out. Like he
For
doesn't
sure.
sing.
Yeah, yeah.
He just
But we can't
forces it at
forget,
you.
like, I think Black Flag were really, on the not cutting edge, but like they really took a genre of music and pushed it
Oh,
into
yeah,
a
definitely.
completely different direction. And he kind of jumped in at the right time. It was right.
Well, he was their fourth
Moment
singer,
where-
so
Yeah.
I mean they had a lot. They already have gone. Went through a lot of their growing pains. I mean they've had 8 different bass players and
Yeah.
10 different
Yeah,
drummers, and that really there's only the one original member. Still, through the life of the band, but
Greg Ginn, right? Like the guitar
yeah,
player.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
And I didn't realize they were that big. Like, I thought they were just, in circles of punk rock fans. Like, of course, everyone knows who Black Flag is, but apparently they were going to be on SNL.
Yeah,
And this is back in the Belushi.
I was
days,
looking
right?
and
for that.
Belushi
Yeah.
was trying to get him on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Belushi
Yeah.
was trying to get him on there. It was them and
Fear.
Bad
Fear,
Brains. Or
yeah.
Fear. Yeah. And they got Fear on, and then after what's head guy of SNL? Larry something, not Larry. Anyway,
Lorne Michaels.
After Lorne Michaels, yeah. After he
Jewish
saw
guy.
the performance of Feared, he basically just shut Black Flag down and said he didn't want him on there because it was
Yeah.
just too much.
Yeah. But I think that's like, that's a milestone
Totally.
in a band's career, is playing SNL. And I had no
At the
idea
time.
that, like, they had gotten that big.
Well, even to get on the Crow soundtrack is huge too, right? Somebody
yeah,
got
totally.
him on there. That's a huge soundtrack.
Yeah.
Little,
And to have Henry Rollins on
Yeah.
Undertow,
that too.
Right. Yeah.
That's
and
massive.
I think his ability, his charisma sort of like superseded that band. And
Totally.
he was able to make a career out of Henry Rollins. Like, that was his brand.
yeah.
So for me, that was really interesting. It was just this sort of like period of time where they really kind of put the flag in the ground for hardcore punk, and that's when people were actually listening, and it was still kind of untouched by whatever
posers and the
capitalist interests and stuff like
exactly,
that, and
exactly.
it makes it really cool. It's a really cool snapshot in time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just him as such a just a juggernaut of an individual and charismatic, and he was a character. Like he was a real fucking, true to life. That was him. But at the same time, when you look, it seems like he's a character in a
Have you guys
comic
ever
book
seen
or
him
something.
speak?
His
spoken
like
word?
his
Yeah.
spoken word. Yeah, I watched well, not live, but I watched a bunch of.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
For
Yeah.
years, I've been watching a bunch of his videos, and it's great how he just sucks you in, man. Like you're in his stories, and you just want him to keep going.
It's the rhythm and the tempo.
Yeah,
Oh,
man.
it's unreal.
I saw. I have never seen him, but I did see one time like somebody perform some like slam poetry kind of like, and it was one of the most intense things I've ever seen. Like it was just like everybody in the entire audience was just like hanging on every single word, and
Yep.
her like delivery and like all of the movements and all with it. It was a complete performance. So, and same thing with Henry Rollins,
Yeah.
right? Like this is a whole thing. This is the experience. So I bet too, experiencing it live would be ideal for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised this isn't like more of a mainstream thing.
Yeah.
Like, I remember seeing Jello Biafra
Oh yeah,
back in the day, and that was awesome.
yeah.
It was fantastic. I mean, it was a lot of it was politically like driven, but there was not quite on not quite comedy, but sort of like on the zeitgeist of what everyone is like thinking.
Yeah.
And he said it, and like I feel like Henry Rollins does the same thing, but not so much in your face. He's really good at just being this average Joe type character.
Yeah.
But then there's little bits and pieces where you're like, what?
It's the perfect level of fame, I think. Right? Like
Yeah,
it would be
yeah.
exactly what I would want if I was ever in that position, right? If you walk down the street, odds are you may notice him because he's ripped, but you're not gonna notice him probably because he's Henry Rollins, right? Odds are.
Yeah.
And but he's still big enough where he can have all, like I said, all his own Sirius XM show, all this kind of stuff, right? But and be this legend, but I mean, just be walking down the street and be himself, right? Like, again,
Yeah.
not something that happens very often, right? Not very many legends can walk down the street and not know who they are, right? Like, or be assaulted or whatever, right?
Well, yeah, and that's another thing too. I mean, fans aren't going to run up and assault him because with his background,
I wouldn't touch
kick
him.
shit out
No
of you
way.
or grab you and
Yeah.
throw you away. And yeah,
So I got a question. Is it genuine or is it a well-crafted brand?
it's genuine through and through. There's no way you can have a well-crafted brand that runs over 40 years and stick to the narrative 100%.
And you know what? I think it's both. I think it's
Okay.
both, right? I think it's genuine all the way through, and I think that that's what has made it go this distance, right? Because if it's an act, that's a really long act to pull off, right? And that's what I thought too.
Right.
Like back in the '90s, I was like, okay, maybe it's a little macho, but then now it's not, and it's totally different, and it's so he's changed it, right? And yeah, so I think it's both. I think it's both.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah, just like yeah, it's like Coca-Cola, right? I mean, you got Coca-Cola Zero, you got Coca-Cola
Classic. and
Classic,
yeah.
you got Coca-Cola Organic, whatever, and it's still Coca-Cola. So I think there is some branding, and I think he's obviously smart, and he understands how to navigate whatever stream, like whatever channels that he needs to be on, right? Like it seems to be now it's festivals and doing the spoken word thing, and I think he's really good at it. Not, I mean, doing music, I don't think that would be a good thing, but it seems to me like his passion is in music. So, yeah, I don't know. I think just all around an interesting cat and a different perspective than the run of the mill, you know, bullshit.
Yeah, it was a refreshing read, rather
Yeah.
than
Did you guys hear Machine Gun Kelly and Megan Fox got married?
Oh, the scandal and the fucking who gives a shit.
So he's not that, right? And that's
No.
what I love. That's what I'll always love, and that's what's I think genuine about him.
And I compare him to Lemmy, where it doesn't.
Right.
He's, neither man ever compromised. They never changed. They never, this is me. This is what I've done from the beginning till the end.
yeah. And you know what? Neither
Yeah.
of those guys sold out.
That's the thing. They didn't change. They did exactly what they wanted to when they wanted to. They, and you look at Henry, it's like, okay, well now you're not known so much for music anymore because you're like, I'm done with that part of my life. I'm just gonna. This is what I do now. I do the spoken word. I do books. I do, this side of things. I'm done with music. And just to be, not to go back and now I'm one of these legacy acts where it's like, oh, let's get Black Flag back together to make, $8 million, $10 million for another tour just so I can say, I did it. He's just, no, I'm done. This is what I am. I'm true to my craft. I'm true to who I am. So same thing with Lemmy. It's straight up.
Gotta respect it, for sure.
True to the end.
For sure.
All right, we want you guys to subscribe, share, and review this podcast. Keep it going, keep it strong, because we're having a great time entertaining you guys with B-Sides and Beers podcast.